In today's episode of the podcast, I'll be sharing with you some finished objects, some progress that I'm making on a couple of my other works in progress, my second skein of hand-spun yarn, as well as something fun that I've just recently acquired for Lanita, my Lundrum spinning wheel. And at the very end of the video, I will be sharing with you the lucky recipient of the send-off that I shared with you in the last episode of the podcast. So grab a cup of something cozy and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. It is so lovely to be here with you guys today. I have lots to share with you guys, and I have something very special to share at the end of the episode. It feels just so perfect to be sitting down and having a cozy podcast episode. It's stormy outside, kind of cloudy. It's really nice lighting whenever it's like that outside, so I just love it. So it feels good to be cozy here with you guys. Today, I am drinking a cup of Constant Comment by Bigelow. This is one of my favorites, with a little bit of milk, and it's just right. But let's go ahead and cover a few little admin things before I dive into my projects. So next week, there will be no midweek ramble. However, I will be back with a regularly scheduled podcast next Sunday, but next Wednesday, the channel will be dark, so there will be no new midweek ramble. Also, if you remember, I mentioned that there was a Fiber for the People shop update. Fiber for the People is my hand-dyed yarn business. I had a previously scheduled shop update for this last Saturday, but I had to reschedule that. So that has been rescheduled to this coming Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you were confused, I had put notices everywhere. So if you went to the website, you noticed that it was rescheduled. However, it is rescheduled for this coming Saturday, the 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So really quick, no midweek ramble next week, and the shop update has been rescheduled to Saturday. Before I get into the content of the episode, I do want to remind you that all of the show notes and the links can be found at woolneedleshands.com. And if you're watching this from a smart TV, you can scan the QR code that you see right here with your smartphone camera. This QR code is going to pop down to the bottom corner of the video. You can scan it with your smartphone camera, and that will take you to the show notes so that you don't have to access anything separately. You can look at it right there on your phone without having to go to YouTube and do the whole drop down thing. It's just going to be right there as I chat about things. So just for a little added convenience, scan the QR code to see the notes and the links that I mentioned here on the podcast. Okay, now before we get into the obvious finished object in the room, which I cannot wait to talk about with you guys, I do want to jump into some of the things that I'm currently working on right now. So we're going to start with my pair of vanilla socks. Now, I mentioned on the previous episode of the podcast that I plan to always have a pair of socks on the needles, and I'm going to stick to that. I'm going to do my very best to not have more than one pair of socks on the needles because that's really overwhelming. So I want to make sure that I only have one pair of socks on the needles at any given time. And that is what I have in my Magner kind of like itty bitty bag. This is a project bag by MagnerCo from Athens, Georgia. It's just a really lovely waxed canvas project bag with leather details. I absolutely love these bags. Magner are some of my favorites. They're just so well made. Okay, inside are my vanilla socks. Now, these are socks being knit in Plymouth Yarn Co. And the yarn that I'm using here is called Zeno. It's discontinued. They don't currently make this yarn. However, I have been looking around on Etsy. I found a few skeins of it on eBay. So if you're looking at destash sites or places like Etsy or eBay, you might be able to get your hands on a ball of Plymouth Yarn Co. Zeno. It's a really lovely yarn. The color of this particular skein is really pretty. And I think it's a single ply. I mean, okay, I really should know. I mean, honestly, to me, this looks like a single ply yarn. When I grabbed this with the intention of knitting with it, I mean, no, it kind of looks like, no, it looks like a single ply yarn. And the reason I thought that it was plied was because it has this strand of dark fiber running through it to give it almost like a zebra spun look. I don't know if you can see that really well, but you can see the dark strand running through there. But other than that, it's a single ply construction. Not ideal for socks. I will tell you, it is not a good idea to knit socks in single ply yarn. I didn't think too much about it because I was just assuming it was plied. And I mean, looking at it now, I don't know why I would have made that assumption, but I'm going with it. It's going to be, you know, a pair of single ply socks. I'll just be really careful, but just know it's not the greatest yarn for knitting socks. It just doesn't hold up well. And I know that through experience, but here they are. So Now, I mentioned on the last episode of the podcast, I was trying to match the yarns so that each sock looked the same. And I just didn't, I missed the mark. So they're obviously going to look a little different, but that's okay. They're really pretty. It's a lovely kind of gradient that's happening. So those are my vanilla socks. That's what I have going so far. Not a ton of progress since the last time I shared them with you, but I am enjoying working on them. These are my kind of when we're outside watching the kids play, or if we go to the park and I'm sitting on the bench, it's kind of my grab and go. And the project bag makes it perfect for that because it's just the perfect size for socks. Okay, now this is my Honeycomb Aran sweater. I am so excited about this sweater. I've not made a ton of progress because I have just kind of gotten started and I had to start the main section of the sweater 3 times to get it right. I don't know what happened, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But this is going to be a sweater in pieces. So this is the Honeycomb Aran pattern by Patons. For Patons or Patons wool, and it is written by Gail Bunn. She's the designer. It's a free pattern and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's such a lovely classic Aran cabled sweater, and because it's knit in pieces, it has really nice structure. I love the way it sits on the shoulders. It's just such a beautiful design, and I'm really excited to be knitting this. I am knitting this with Patons Classic Worsted in the brown mustard colorway, which is just beautiful. I don't know what it is about this. I just really love this color. And I'm proud of the progress that I've made, to be honest. So a few things. I've never knit a cable sweater before. I've never really knit a sweater. I've not knit a sweater for myself in pieces. And then those two things together are 2 pretty significant challenges for me, or not challenges, but things I've not done before. And also things that are outside of my comfort zone. I usually shy away from cables because they intimidate me, but I'm happy that I'm going forward with this sweater because I'm just thinking it's going to be absolutely gorgeous, especially in this color. This project is living in my Funky Firebird project bag. This is one that was sent to me by Ashley of Funky Firebird. She is actually the wife and partner of Casey from MagnerCo out of Athens. I think little Oscar was sitting close by my bag here because I see little Oscar hairs on here. So sorry. Oscar's our cat. Somebody commented on the last episode where I shared this, that this project bag reminds them of Ahsoka Tano, who's a character from Star Wars. And I absolutely love that. As a big Star Wars fan, I can totally see how this would remind you of Ahsoka Tano. So she has these like tendril, like, I don't really know what you would call those. I know that there's a name for them and I'm drawing a blank right now, but these like big, long tendrils that grow out of the top of her head, I guess you could say. And this coloring is what, it's the same coloring. And so this kind of looks like her skin. It's like a real deep pumpkin orange color. And so this and like the tendril things that grow out of her head, yeah, this totally has Ahsoka Tano vibe. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you may know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you're probably like, I don't get the reference, and that's fine too. So here is my Honeycomb Aran. Last time I shared this with you, I just had this ribbing done, but you can see that I'm starting to make some progress on the cable portion. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this process for a second, because one of the reasons why these types of sweaters have intimidated me is because they feature like several panels of cable. So it's different if you're knitting like a cable hat that might just be all over cables and it's one cable motif and you don't really have to include separate panels of cables. But with a sweater like this, you're talking, you know, you have 2 panels that run down either side of the piece, and then you have one central, like main central panel, and then you might have some detail panels that go under the arm. That's what's going on here. And so when I first started the cable section, I knew going into it that I wanted to put some markers to separate each of the panels. So if you look here, you can see that I have lots of little markers going on. So you have this section right here, which isn't really a cable panel, but it does have some texture to it. And then I have my orange markers right here, which is the first panel. And then I have an in-between section, which has no cables. And then I have another panel of cables here, which is the same panel as this panel, which is why they're both orange. and then an in-between section here. And then the yellow stitch markers that you see there, that's a different panel. And then there's the in-between sections. And then you can see the green markers, which is that large central panel. And then it goes back again to the yellow panel and to the orange panels. I needed to do something like that so that I could keep track of where I was, because I have all of these, and I'm doing this like on a paper pattern because it's too hard for me to keep track of all of the different things and going back and forth from different like pages on an app. And so I printed out the pattern. This is a free pattern, so you can download this freely. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show things to you. But I put them in sheet protectors so that I could just flip things over. So I have here, all the panels are right here. And then these are all the abbreviations. So a real quick like flip gives me the abbreviations that are featured in each of those panels. And then here are the instructions for just, you know, the construction of the sweater. I have noticed, fortunately, thank the knitting gods, that the panels are pretty easy to, not easy to memorize. I'm not at that point yet. It's easy for me to look at the chart and see what I need to do without too much confusion, because they're not super, I don't know. I mean, I'm not very experienced with cables, so I don't consider these to be very intricate, to be honest. And I think that that's a pretty common thing with Aran sweaters, is it's not really an intricate pattern. It's the fact that you're repeating it so frequently that's creating usually like, you might not be able to see this really well. Yeah, I'll just pop a picture up, but you can see it kind of creates that braided motif. And that's just because you're repeating the pattern frequently. So it's not that the pattern itself is complicated. It's just that you're going to have to come back and start and repeat it over and over again. And you do have to, you know, the symbols for all the different types of cables. So there's this many different types of cables that you are using in the pattern. So I guess that can be a little tricky. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's challenging, but it's kind of a refreshing change from what I've been knitting a lot of, which is just like raglan top-down stockinette sweaters. And so I'm kind of embracing the challenge. I don't feel in any way like rushed to complete this, because it's just not practical for me to have something like this right now anyway. So I have some time to complete the project. But it is definitely like taking me aback a little, making me realize like, okay, just take your time to separate the sections out, organize everything ahead of time. And then that way, the more I do the cables, the more likely I am to kind of memorize the pattern and know where everything goes. And because I have everything marked like this, I can check for mistakes much more easily because I know how many stitches are involved in each panel. So I can check the stitch count. I can just go back and check one panel at a time. I don't have to worry about trying to like count all through the whole, you know, number of stitches to find the mistake that I'm looking for. I'm knitting the smallest size of this, and that's not because I would fit the smallest size by measurement, but because my gauge was a little bit larger, and so I wanted to adjust the size. And going back to the conversation we had in last week's midweek ramble about density, if you watched last week's midweek ramble, I shared with you some things to consider when you're substituting yarns for a project. Density is a really big one, but also when it comes to meeting the gauge for a particular project, if your gauge is off, sometimes going up a needle size can cause the fabric to be much less dense than what you would want, or going down a needle size can cause the fabric to become too dense, and the whole project is thrown off. So it's really best to almost adjust the size of the garment or of the piece that you're working on. Choose a different size to knit so that you don't have to make any kind of adjustments to the fabric if the fabric is kind of ideal. Because I really liked the fabric that I was getting with the suggested needle size and this yarn, I didn't want to change that by, you know, going up or down a needle size. I just wanted to adjust the size that I chose to knit. And that's what I did. So I went down a size. I have a whole video talking about this, how you can choose which size to knit based on your swatch with the needles and the yarn that you used. I highly suggest you watch that if you find that that is something that you struggle with. But that's kind of what I had to consider with this. Because my gauge was a little bit off on the larger side, I needed to go down a size in the sweater to make up for the difference in the stitch gauge. And I did all the math and everything that I talk about in this video to kind of figure that out. So that's where I am with my Honeycomb Aran. I love it. It's kind of like a little cozy project that I can sit down and do. I feel like I want to sit down and do this when nobody's home because of all the cabling going on. I don't want the distraction. So it's usually about an hour before my son and my husband get home, because my littlest doesn't get home for another hour after that. So it's about an hour before they get home when I feel like I've done all of my work and I can sit down and relax. That's the hour that I usually spend working on this and just the peace and quiet of our home. So I'm loving that. I just love the cozy vibes that it's giving me. I love the project bag. I love it all. So if you are looking for, I don't know, your first cabled sweater in pieces and you've got some experience, this would be an excellent option. Or maybe you don't have any experience with knitting a sweater in pieces, but you have some pretty good cable experience. I mean, whatever, just if it's inspiring you, go for it, because I'm really excited to kind of embark on that journey. Okay, I want to talk about one more, this isn't works in progress, but I kind of consider it to be a work in progress, because me as a hand spinner or a wheel spinner, this is Lanita, my Lendrum spinning wheel, I am a work in progress. I am still practicing. I'm still learning how to spin yarn. And so I wanted to share with you my second skein of hand spun yarn. So this is my first, this is my second. We're going to look at them together and you'll see there's differences. I don't know if it's improvement, but it's differences. I find that my second skein is a little bit more consistent. It's more consistent in more places than my first skein. Okay, without further ado, here are my two skeins of hand spun. Show them side by side. This one was my first skein. And you can see all of the inconsistencies, all of that thick and thin. I mean, there's sections of this that have like no twist at all. Like you see those little fluffy parts right there. So yeah, there's all of that going on in there. So that was my first. And then this is my second. So still thick and thin sections, but you can see that there's more consistency here in thickness. I'm still getting a lot of those curly cues, and I know that's because my tension, okay, so I don't know. I don't know if that's because my tension is too high, and please educate me in the comment section. I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm doing my best to try to find information, but I have limited time a lot of the time, and so I have to really kind of focus what it is that I need to learn, and honestly, what I've been doing is in my notebook here, as I spin, I've been writing down some questions. So spinning questions that I have. How do I keep from over twisting? So these little curly cues that you see happening right in there, you can kind of just see little coiled sections. I would like to know, number one, is that normal? I don't think it is. I think that that's over twisted. And number two, how to keep from over twisting. Please leave me your advice. Leave me some links to videos. I'm kind of doing that legwork myself, but I would love to hear from you guys. I've actually had so many comments left on various different platforms where I've been talking about this from people providing me with advice, and it's just so helpful. So how do I keep from over twisting? How do I keep the twist from unraveling on the bobbin? And I know that has something to do with your staple, like you lock the twist in. If the twist carries through the entire staple length, then it locks the twist in. Everything is very fragmented in my mind right now. So I know that when I have more time, like the spring break is coming, I'm going to devote more time to really learning these things. And I do want to take some classes, but right now it's all just very fragmented. And then how do I keep from under twisting, which kind of goes to that number two. So these are 3 questions I've had recently, but I keep adding to this as I'm spinning and I notice certain things happening. I just will write these questions down so that I can ask you, or so that I can just have an idea of what I need to search for. But I do notice some improvements, and the improvements that I'm noticing right now are consistency in the thickness of the yarn. Obviously it's not great because you got like this section right here, but it's much more consistent. I don't know. Maybe it's not more consistent, but I managed to get a thinner yarn here, because eventually I would love to move to plying, and I'm not there yet because this is not pliable in my opinion. I think I need to figure out how to get rid of the over twisting. I need to figure out how to get smaller singles, and then I'll start thinking about plying, because I would like to be able to ply the yarn so that I have a really nice, you know, structured yarn that I can use for projects more, that are going to receive more, that are going to have more wear. You know, I would love to spin with the intention of knitting socks with the yarn. I think if I had to say, like, what's my main kind of like goal for having the spinning wheel and producing yarn, and I would say that I would love, number one, to be able to produce sock yarn on my spinning wheel and knit good socks with my sock yarn. And then even above and beyond that is I would love to produce really lovely DK weight yarn that I can knit sweaters with. So those are my two kind of main goals. And so I really need to narrow down like my questions, or come up with my questions, ask my questions with those two things in mind. I want to be able to knit socks and I want to be able to knit sweaters. And so kind of that's the direction I'm going with that. So I'm really loving the process. I was listening to Kristen talk about spinning on her last two videos, and she said something like she never aspired to be a technical spinner. She loves sitting there and just the process of spinning, and she spins really beautiful yarn. I think that the yarn samples that she showed in her most recent video, where she talks all about spinning, you should definitely watch it if you're interested. It was very well done. I feel like those singles that she spins are so like thin, and then she plied them into two skeins. That I think she showed two skeins in that video, and they looked like yarn you would buy. I don't know. It was beautiful, and I would like to be able to ply and have yarn that looks like that. So anyway, that's kind of my goal. That's where I'm going with that. So I'm happy with my progress. I love this. This was spun from a beautiful braid of yarn. Let's look at those colors one more time. This was spun from a beautiful braid of yarn by Nicole at One Thursday, and the yarn, or excuse me, not braid of yarn, braid of fiber, and it was called New Hampshire. And just the colors, look at these colors. Absolutely gorgeous. So this is 100% merino, and it's stunning. And actually, speaking of works in progress, and I'm going to pull Lanita up here because I want to show one thing to you guys. I have on Lanita right now, I'm just going to set her front and center for just a minute. So here's Lanita. She has on her bobbin right now. I'm going to walk over here. I just wanted to show you how beautiful this fiber was. I mean, look at those colors and the little, like, I don't know, striations of colors in the fiber. It's absolutely lovely. Okay, so that is what I currently have going on Lanita. While I have her here, though, I wanted to share something really fun with you guys that I'm obsessed with. I received a message from Kassondra at Rainy Day Knittery not too long ago, and she asked if she could send me a set of her treadle covers, and they're faux fur treadle covers, and she makes them to fit your wheel. So she custom makes them so that they fit the treadles on your particular wheel. I told her what kind of wheel I had, a Lendrum double treadle, and she created the most beautiful treadle covers, and I absolutely love them. So I'm just going to show this. I'm going to lift it up so you can see. You can kind of see them now. You guys, look at those. How fun are those? And they are so soft. I absolutely love them. I'll pop a little video in here so you can see me using them, but they are so lovely. I can't, they're like little fuzzy slippers for Lanita, the Lendrum. They're perfect. I love them. So you can see a little video here of me treadling away with my fuzzy treadle covers. She has these in her shop. I believe she has these in her shop. So I noticed that she put a post up a couple days ago or yesterday. Yeah, so she has some that are made to order. So what you do is you select a size for a single treadle or a double treadle. You select the color that you want, and she has lots of different faux fur color options. And then you tell her in the little text box what kind of spinning wheel you have, and she makes them for you and sends them out. And it says right now, if you place an order, it can arrive anywhere between the 8th and the 15th, which is amazing for something that's created to order. So she is Crafts by Kassondra on Etsy, but you can find her on Instagram as Rainy Day Knittery. And I am so excited to have those. I feel like, I mean, I'm such an amateur at spinning, but what a nice way to elevate the craft and to give you something cozy to treadle against. And another thing, they Velcro around the bottom, like you could see in that video. They kind of Velcro around the bottom of your treadle and they don't slip around. You know, you kind of would wonder if it would like slip when you get going, and they really don't. They stay in place and they just feel so good on your feet when you're treadling. So I just wanted to share that with you. A fun little thing, you know, to elevate your spinning should you find that to be something that you would like to have. I know some folks spin with their shoes on, and so that might not be something that you want, or maybe you prefer to spin with like slippers or something. But I like to spin barefoot, and I think that that just makes it so much more enjoyable. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, which is my Franken sweater. You guys, it's alive! It's alive! So I posted about this on Instagram a couple of days ago, and then I shared that photo here on YouTube a couple of days ago, and I have to tell you, the outpouring of just support and excitement from everybody who has kind of been present through this sweater saga is just so cool. I can't even tell you. I feel like this has been something that so many people have been invested in. They've been interested in seeing it get finished, and that was just such like it built me up, really made me want to like stick it out and finish it. Because if you have been around for the whole saga of the Franken sweater, you know that it's been through some things. Like it's gone through, I mean, it hasn't gone through a ton, but there have been some frustrating things I had to change. I mean, I had to cut the whole bottom off at one point and reknit that. But I'm so happy and proud of myself for sticking it out. But I owe a lot of that to you guys because you've been there for me, cheering me on, expressing an interest and your personal investment in them wanting to see this through. And I think that I don't know, like votive confidence is just so, I don't know, I just love it. I appreciate it so much. So thank you guys. So here we are. We have done it. The Franken sweater lives and it is adorable. So I just got up and you might have seen it, but I'm going to kind of scoot myself up a little bit here to show off just like the upper part of the sweater. And I'll pop a couple of pictures. I don't love, photo shoots. I'm not a big like proper photo shoot gal. I don't know. I don't love it. So I take little spontaneous ones with my phone, and that's my thing. So I'll pop some of those pictures up, but you can see it is finished, and look at the neckline. You guys, the neckline, it just came out just the way I was hoping for it to come out. Now, if you know how I've been constructing this, and the reason I call it Franken sweater is because I'm pulling bits and pieces of other published patterns that I really love to kind of create my ideal sweater. So this is not a pattern, right? This is not available to purchase or anything like that. I do have plans on giving you a breakdown on what I've done, and I'm going to put that into an upcoming newsletter. But this is not a pattern you can download right now because I'm piecing together, you know, different things from different patterns. That's how I came up with this. So this is kind of inspired by the neckline from the Magnolia Bloom sweater by Camilla Vad. It's not the same identical neckline, but it's a similar construction. So I'm looking down, I have my screen below me here. So I'm looking down here. So it's doubled over. And here's something that's kind of cool that I did with this that was not something that was in the Magnolia. If you see right here, so when I doubled this over, I knit the depth that I wanted, or no, let me reword that. So I did the ribbing for a certain number of inches, I doubled it over, and I kind of seamed it down, or I knit the stitches together to seam the two edges together. So essentially what you do is you take the live stitches and you knit them together with the cast on edge of the neckline. Kind of hard to explain, but in the Magnolia Bloom sweater by Camilla Vad, she talks about this. And then after I did that, instead of finishing up and just starting the stockinette portion of the sweater, I knit an additional inch of ribbing. So from right here, from here to here is the doubled neckline. But then from here down is just flat ribbing. It causes this to kind of sit up a little bit. It gives it a little bit more like that thickness and structure. And then the rest of the ribbing kind of lays flat. That was my thing. So that was my design element. And I'm very proud of that because I love the way the neckline sits. So that's kind of how I came up with that neckline there. Now the raglans And that kind of shaping, the short row shaping, that's the Felix pullover by Amy Christopher's, but I did not do the eyelets down the raglans. I just did a basic, raglan increase. So that's kind of where I'm drawing that. And then actually the rest of the body, my intention was to do like the no frills sweater in terms of like length and various different things like that. But I didn't love the idea of this just being a straight box. I wanted there to be a little bit of like shaping. And so I did some decreases going down for some body shaping to bring it in just a little bit. And I'm really happy I did that because you can see that if I didn't do that, it probably would just, I don't know, it would just be like much more boxy than it is. But when I hold my arms up like this, you can see how it kind of gently slopes in on either side. And I think that that's really flattering. So yeah, I'm super happy with that. And it just gives it a really cozy feel. It's not too snug. It's just super cozy. I chose to just carry the ribbing on with the same size needle that I used to knit the rest of the sweater, just because I thought that it would look nice. It would lay flat. And I just didn't want to mess with it because I thought that it would look just right. Because of the real chunky ribbed collar, I felt like a chunkier ribbing at the hemline and at the cuffs would just kind of match. And it totally did. And the sleeves, they're perfect. I love them. They hit at just the right bracelet length on my wrist and they are straight. So there's no shaping happening here, just a straight sleeve. And you can see in those pictures how nice they lay and they feel so comfortable. I just love everything about it. They are the sleeves, going back to the sleeves, they are straight. However, there is a rapid decrease right before I do the cuff to kind of give it a little bit, I don't know, like a bubble at the cuff. I don't know if you can see that. But that is my Franken sweater. I absolutely love it. And another thing that's really great about this, I am wearing this right now with just a little tank top. It is next to skin soft. Now that's because it does include a strand of Surrey. So this is knit using Lion Brand Fisherman's wool and a single strand of undyed Surrey silk, Surrey alpaca and silk. And that Surrey gives it a really nice halo, but a really nice soft hand. It's very buttery and it's very next to skin. I have this against my bare skin on my arms and around my neck, and it's absolutely comfortable and soft. Now, if I didn't have this paired with the Surrey, I kind of think that the rustic nature of the Fisherman's wool would make it not scratchy and not uncomfortable, but really, really warm. And this is warm, but it's not, it doesn't feel too crispy warm, if that makes any sense. Let me go grab a cake of what I have left from this so that you can see the yarn. Okay, so this is the Lion Brand Fisherman's wool that I'm using. And then this is the Surrey that I have paired with it. This yarn by itself is absolutely gorgeous. I love Lion Brand Fisherman's wool. This is their tweed, natural tweed. Lion Brand Fisherman's wool is all natural colors. It's not dyed at all. And the tweeds, the little tweed viscose neps that are in here are also natural. So there's no, nothing is dyed here. The yarn is very much untreated. And then this is just undyed Surrey alpaca and silk. So the two of those together just make a really gorgeous fabric, just like the one that you see here. And I am so happy with it. I can't even tell you. I think that because it was kind of an improvised sweater and because there are some elements to this that were design choices that were my own, I'm very proud of it overall. So that is my Franken sweater by yours truly, but inspired by other patterns as well. And I am so just tickled pink by this sweater. It is super cozy and I love that you guys were as invested in this as I was. Okay. As promised, I am going to be sending off some really special things here to a really lucky recipient. This is, if you watched the last episode of the podcast, this is kind of my way of saying thank you to everybody who chooses to support my channel here. It's kind of a, I don't know, like a 36,000 subscriber send off, right? A little celebration of that. But it's really important to me that you know how grateful I am for you and all of your support. And, you know, in the last episode of the podcast, I asked for you, if you wanted to participate in this, to just use the hashtag #sendoff and to leave me a comment. That's all I asked. And almost every single comment that came in with that hashtag wrote so much more than that. It went above and beyond to express their appreciation and their love of the podcast. And that means so much to me. It makes me kind of emotional, but it means so much to me. So thank you, because you are what you keep it going, because that's a huge motivating factor. It means more to me than I could ever really adequately express. And so I just want you to know that I read them, and it means a whole lot to me. So thank you so very much. Okay, so I don't want to get too into that because I will get misty, if you will. So what we're going to do, because I asked you to include hashtag #sendoff in your comment, the reason why I wanted you to do that was because I'm going to be able to use a random comment picker program or whatever. So I'm going to go to, I'll do this, I'm going to record my screen so you can see what I'm doing here. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to pickawinner.co, and this is where I am going to paste the link for the YouTube video where we all put the hashtag #sendoff. I'm going to paste that here, fetch. I have to put in the keyword, which was hashtag #sendoff. Done. Continue. Okay, now it's going to load up all the comments that used hashtag #sendoff. There were a lot, and that's amazing. Okay, oh, nope, still going. Pick a winner. So 1,872 comments were loaded that used hashtag #sendoff. Pick a winner. Marky Cooks. As always, I have enjoyed this. I look forward to each episode, and I'm digging the shorts you've started posting. Marky Cooks. I don't know if that is your actual name, but thank you so much. You are the winner of this gorgeous send-off package. This is a project bag by Funky Firebrid, and there are 4 skeins of Fisherman's wool yarn in the project bag from yours truly, and I cannot wait to send this off to you. Please get in touch with me. So here's the thing. This is a very, this is a big deal. This is a big package. So get in touch with me via email. You can send me an email at woolneedleshands@gmail.com. Let me know that you are the giveaway winner. You can give me your address so that I know where to send this. If I don't hear from you, let's see. If I don't hear from you by the next time I upload a podcast, which will be next Sunday, so you have a whole week to get in touch with me, I'm going to do this again until we get, a winner, until I hear from somebody. So please get in touch with me. Congratulations. You are the winner of my, 36K send-off. Thank you, as always, for coming by and checking out today's episode of the podcast. It means so much to me to have you here. If you are a new viewer, I hope you took value from this video. If you are a returning viewer and subscriber, thank you for coming back time and time again and for your support of the Wool Needles Hands channel. If you did take value, please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe. Click the bell icon so you can be notified anytime I upload new content here on the channel, which is every Wednesday and every Sunday, except for next week. Wednesday will be dark. In the meantime, and until we meet again, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.